Welcome to Scrolling with Ceazor. Today is May 11th, 2026. I got a lot of tweets for you today to go through, but as always, it's not financial advice. You do your own decision making. Okay. So candles are all red today. They're not significantly red, just a small pullback on the normal healthy range, I guess. Some volume is still up, still in an uptrend for Ethereum, but bouncing off this single line here quite a few times. So anyways, I think it's fine. You just kind of leave things as are. Might be a good time to consider whether or not you want to open a position or not, but I don't know if that's for you to decide. So let's move over to the tweets. Okay, so the first thing I got here is Layer 0 and Ondo Finance have made a partnership. Now tokenized stocks can be bridged to Hyperliquid via Layer 0's core system. So I find that great. I find it nice to see that the system is, the ecosystem is healing. Perhaps all of the FUD last week on Layer 0 has kind of given them some fire under them and got them to start going a little bit more. Now, however, it might just be they're continuing as usual and it's just coming up in my feed more because of the recent dramas and so forth. But tokenized stocks from Ondo Finance going cross-chain via Layer 0. Check it out if that's something you are interested in. Next thing we have is Flying Tulip has put live margin lending. Basically, it's you can look at it like if you look at the screenshot here, it's basically lending and borrowing through Flying Tulip on mainnet. So it's unincentivized. So just it's guarded, capped, rollout, unincentivized. So you can deposit some assets there to borrow or to lend and get some APRs or leverage up and stuff. So check it out. This is pretty interesting. So Tether has dropped this thing called tether.dev. And basically, I haven't looked through it very deep, but basically if you're building something, obviously they want you to use Tether, USDT, right? But if you're building something that's interesting, you can go to this tether.net and ask for a grant, community grants or technical bounties and so forth. So check it out. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty overdue considering how much they've taken from the ecosystem, and for them to finally start giving back. I think that's great, but overdue, but still very much welcomed. I think. I don't know. I don't know exactly the details. I'll have to look at it, but maybe there is. Maybe it's pretty unbiased, but maybe it's going to be super like insiders and stuff like that. So I don't know. So you check it out. Okay. Stormbless retweeted Jocelyn Feast. So he says, if you're building anything in this space, I recommend you read this to know how to approach security as an intrinsic part of every decision. So if you go to Josie's tweet here, she says, we knew it was a weak point, but we thought it was okay. You hear some variation of this in many incidences. Hacks are often less about unknown vulnerabilities than about how organizations handle them. Security is a leadership problem. So it's just, you can read through this guy, this post here, this article that they've written about this kind of problems. And it's mostly about just admin keys and stuff like this and how to avoid this kind of these problems. I think it's good for people to read through things like this, especially if they're going to launch a product and understand kind of what's going on. Now, Jocelyn is part of the Trail of Bits, the auditing firm. So it's great to see auditors kind of coming out with a little bit more robust information for people who want to be founders in the space. Moving on, so Sam of Liquidity, he posted this thing today, and then I kind of dug through it. So it's a kind of look at DeFi Saver and the DeFi Saver dashboard. Basically, what he's saying here is if you use WST ETH to borrow US dollars, Liquidity is by far the best one right now to borrow it with a net APY of 4.2%. Okay, so how does that work? You have to dig through it a little bit deeper, but I've opened up the DeFi Saver app here to kind of show you how you can kind of use this DeFi Saver to hunt down these opportunities. Okay, so go to Discover here on the left-hand panel. Up at the top, there's a place where you can select the collateral. In this case, I've selected WST ETH. And then beside that, there's a place where you can select your borrow. There's quite a few things in there, but like, you know, you can reduce them to stable coins or remove like certain stable coins you're not interested in borrowing. And then you'll get a readout here of like this. Right now it's set to $100,000 and I want to borrow $50,000, right? So bold is at the top. Like there is this RLUSD. I've sorted by net APY, but this one is capped. Like its borrow cap is reached, so you can't borrow any more right now. So the top one is liquidity, and then the second one is CRV USD, and then we have Frax USD, and then we go down. As you can see, it's pretty good. Basically, you know, the borrow rates are low for these guys because, you know, it's a constant. The collateral rate is constant through all of these because it's the same collateral, right? And it is, you know, I don't know what it's getting right now. I think it's like 2.6 or something. Yeah, 2.6%. And then, so yeah, so you can check it out and figure out if this is something you want to use. I've used DeFi Saver a little bit. I find it to be a little bit cumbersome to actually manage the positions. But if you get used to it and you find it's quite useful because you can migrate positions quite easily. You can like bundle up transactions and send them as a single transaction. This kind of stuff, right? And so it's quite good in that sense, like of what you can do with it. But it is there's a little bit of a learning curve because you have to build it. You have to get its own smart wallet in order to get all of the features. Now you can just connect to it with a normal MetaMask wallet and use it and hunt and even like use it as a UI. So that's good, but you can't like do all of the like smart features without opening a smart wallet. But it's basically a Gnosis safe, so you'll get access to that as well. So if the front end is broken or has a vulnerability, you can just use Gnosis safe to manage your position. Okay, so moving on. So ETH Strategy tweeted this out today. ETH Strategy holds a digital oil reserve. Now, he's obviously talking about ETH, right? ETH is digital oil. And I think we've kind of lost this narrative that ETH is digital oil. And I think we should kind of try to maintain it in our space a little bit. So I do believe, you know, that, you know, ETH is valuable in that sense. It works as a commodity. It's consumed for services and transactions and the delivery of tokens from here to there. So I like this narrative quite a bit. Okay, moving on. So Frax Finance has made another partnership. So FRX USD has created a PegKeeper pool with this CoinShift USPC. Now this is something new to me. This CoinShift, I don't know exactly what it is, but it says 3 trillion in private credit. Your share starts here, backed by Tiger Global and Consensus. So it says USPC is a vault for IUSPC allocated to institutional credit strategies from BlackRock, Fidelity, and more. So again, like I said, Frax Finance is it's my TradFi exposure stablecoin. But it's DeFi native, so I love it. So it's great, and you can check this out and consider whether or not you want to add to this liquidity pool. It says up to 25% APR, but you know, who knows? You got to do some due diligence on this USP if that's something you want to do. But my main thing is that, you know, Frax USD continues to grow its footprint, make partnerships, build its ecosystem up, and that's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to skip away from X for a second and kind of jump in here and talk about this one here. So this is Pandora. This is Pandora AI. It's a prediction marketplace where you can create your own markets permissionlessly. You don't need to reach out to the team. You just come here, click create, and the AI will help you to create your markets as you please. And then you can provide liquidity and people will be able to trade your market. I did do a video on this if you want to know a deeper understanding of how it works. But, I find it to be a little bit sad. Like as we go through here, the utilization of this tech is very, very low. And I find that to be saddening. Like why aren't people using this? Like it's fantastic. You can just create your own prediction market anytime you want, but people would rather just trade on Polymarket with all of their issues, right? So anyhow, there's that. I thought I would share it again and let people know it's out there. So moving on, so here's a tweet by North. North is like one of the founders of Ramses. Ramses is one of my favorite dexes for providing liquidity. And basically what he's talking about here is that like arbitrage bots are in the ecosystem. Arbitrage bots arb a lot of pools and we need them to do that. But, they extract value by doing arbitrage. That's why they do it and that's why they continue to run. But he says Ramses is different, okay? It has dynamic fees and proprietary MEV infra internalized that the leakage and route is captured value back to RAM. So I need to do a little bit more research on how this thing works, but basically they are arbing their own pools and using that revenue to buy back RAM. I'm not sure if they're burning the RAM or if they're just holding the RAM or if they're using that RAM to then incentivize liquidity or what have you, but it dynamic fees and proprietary MEV infrastructure. So they're running their own stuff and they have dynamic fees. The fees change based on like volatility, I guess. So anyhow, I got to do a little bit more research on before I can talk to this, but I thought I would share this on the podcast and then people can kind of dig into that. So as you can say, Ramses Tech has returned $50 million to holders since its launch on Hyperliquid, which is so they're not bleeding money out to the bots. They're capturing that value and giving it back to the RAM holders. Okay, next one here we have a tweet by Polaris. This is a new stablecoin in the works. It's coming out pretty soon. I did run some tests on it. As you can see here is the front end. I played with all the front end. I've got a whole bunch of like fake positions on testnet, right? This is all testnet stuff. So, and I've got a pretty good understanding. When they have a full documentation or when they're getting closer to launch, I'll do a video on it so you can understand how this thing works. It's pretty cool, okay? But anyways, so they got this tweet out here and it's the metaphor of like a pigeon to eagle to phoenix, right? So you can kind of read through this little thing. I'll read this part out, and then you can read through the whole tweet when you have some time. So a pigeon stance based on maximal growth with no focus on resilience, mainly exposure to RWAs to acquire more ETH and to bootstrap liquidity. So this is MakerDAO's economic endgame, was explained in 2022. So the pigeon stance, right? So next is a more transitional eagle stance with RWA exposure capped at 25%, more balanced. So let's get a little bit away from the RWAs. And a phoenix stance based on maximum resilience with no RWA exposure and so forth. And do you see where things broke? Only the pigeon stance came to life. So yeah, so MakerDAO has basically been stuck in the pigeon stance, and they've never pivoted to something that's like no RWA exposure. Like they've got tons of RWA exposure now. I think it's like 90% or 95% or something like that. Like it's quite exposed to all of the T-bills and all this kind of stuff, right? So anyhow, you can check this out. Polaris is coming out soon, so I would suggest you give them a follow, see what this thing is. Again, I'll do a video when it's more ready and when it's closer to that. Okay, and the last one here we have KC. KC is tweeting out, replying to this OG guy. So this OG guy, he's got 54,000 followers. He's like, oh, I just got drained. I lost $200,000. This is my wallet. And KC, I guess this is a dev from Hyperliquid. He's got one of the cats there. I can't remember what they're called, the NFTs. I've got one too, but it just sits there. Anyhow, so there's this cat thing here. He retweeted and says, sorry this has happened to you, but a quick assessment of what happened. It looks like your TG Telegram was exposed, or somehow the hacker has gained access to your private key and then manually dumped all your tokens. And now your tokens are sitting, they sold it for ETH, and that's sitting in its own, another EOA wallet. So yeah, it's toast, sorry. But anyhow, there's some talking here about using CaptureBot. So it kind of looks like maybe he gave his private keys to a Telegram bot. And somehow that Telegram bot like leaked his private keys to these guys, and then they just manually sold everything off. I'm not sure. He doesn't talk, like he doesn't say, he doesn't know how to. He's like, thanks for sharing. It does look like a private key leak. I just don't know how it happened. So he doesn't know how he lost his private key. But I would say, probably the case is, like I said, he probably gave his private key to a bot, and that bot was like basically somehow they found a exploit in it, or who knows, right? I don't know. Just be careful out there, guys. Don't give your main private key. Don't give $200,000 of access to some Telegram bot. Now I don't know if that's what happened, but that's kind of what KC thinks happened, and this guy here doesn't deny that could have been the case of what happened. Anyhow, so check it out. Be careful, stay safe, and keep going. Talk to you later. Thanks. Goodbye.